Mufc Realist TV. This is the Transfer Corner, and of course we finished off very strong with the Premier League season, finishing off third, and now the rumblings keep going on because we got to look ahead of 2023 with the new summer transfer signings. Join with me in the studio is my brilliant co-host Jarvis Cocker. How are you doing, sir, today, this morning?
I'm feeling fine. I slept well. How are you, Mick?
Fantastic. Busy. It's going to be a busy summer. I started to work as an intermediate and as a transfer market in the agency side of it, as per usual, per every summer in January. So it's been a lot of interesting targets and information that's come to my attention that I want to talk to you about today, Jarvis. But of course, we're here to talk about, of course, Manchester United. And we will start with the transfer targets of the strikers in this episode, in this podcast. So this pod is all about the Erik ten Hag striker targets. In the meantime, people, take a sip on your morning brew of coffee and choice, and we will be back in about 10 seconds. In a bit.
Has the Premier League ever been more challenging?
Right, wel. I feel welcome. Dit is my home and I want to achieve success. Okay?
Yes, he wants to achieve success, and we all saw that in his, how he addressed the crowd and the players and the post-match interview. And now we have one game left to play with Jarvis, and that is the FA Cup, of course. We all had a say about excellent season Erik ten Hag has had so far, Jarvis. But now it's looking forward to the next season as kind of deluded, he set the bar high up now, finishing third, and hopefully we get a trophy. But he said, what did he say, Jarvis?
Yeah, and he basically said now it's up to the players to perform.
Yeah. Also about next season, it's not, Luke Shaw and everyone else came to say, in order to get into Champions League, it's not about just getting to Champions League, it's about winning the whole thing. And, Erik ten Hag also said, we should be in a position next season to challenge for the trophies and, the Premier League and Champions League's positions. But what better way to do that to kind of dive into the, targets and, since I got some wordings today, speaking to the market, the agency side is very small. You have many intermediates that you can obtain information. And then, of course, you have reports in the media that can sort of backtrack where the stories are coming from as well. But at the end of the day, we need to check if it has legs or no legs. But I want to start off with the first and foremost, before we kick off the season, we need to look at the budget, Jarvis.
Yeah, we have some reports saying we have a small budget this year. Some reporting 100 million, some report 200 million. So what do you think, Mick?
Well, I can only say that the media outlets, they have, in layman's terms, in social media terms, have a Scooby-Doo. That means that the thing is with the club, since Erik ten Hag came and since Richard Arnold took over as the CEO, they have been tightening up the information. There's no leaks coming out. So basically, they've been running a tight ship. Same with last year. If you go back in last year, the same media outlets was reporting, we have 100 million to spend, 80 million, small budget. But guess how much we ended up spending?
250?
250, correct. Yeah. So take it with a pinch of salt, whatever is coming without media, because we got to look at realistically figures. And that is kind of the next slide. This is hypothetical according to what we've been calculating. This is not correct figures, but we want to do this as business operational practice, right? This is going back all the way from January as well, because there was reports saying that we have 100 to 200 million, and it's actually the Glazer family. God, we despise them, but they've actually pledged a fund of 200 million pounds to be used as an overdraft from Bank of America. They actually pledged 500 million pounds to be saved, but that is for personal spend. Basically, when you do manpower planning for all recruitment and hires, that doesn't always include player squad, but player squads are also staff. This includes the entire hire. Like when you do, I need an operational manager. What's the budget for that? So this is the overall pot in layman's term. But it's been said about 200 million to be used as a player side, as players are also staff members. So this is just kind of a roughly estimate. You can use 100 or 200 million out of that part. Plus, Jarvis, also there's been a large mention of sales, Exodus sales within the squad, that we can minimum generate about 150, and we will dive into that. Jarvis, there's another side that I think you calculated about coming in third in Premier League gives you roughly about 165 million, right?
Yeah, that's the reports from the Premier League, and we can add 4 million extra if we win the FA Cup.
And 4 million extra on the FA Cup. That adds on to the entire operational spend cost, as we have FFP rules as well. And there's another thing also which is very interesting, is that we qualified into the Champions League. So I think you did a roughly estimate calculation that was about 75 million in broadcasting rights, and getting into Champions League also altogether, right?
Yeah, that's correct, Mick. We don't have the official numbers yet because it hasn't come out yet, but we did an estimate from last season's numbers, and it was from TV and match going revenues, and qualifying it was about 75 million pounds, I think.
And that gives you kind of a roughly estimate figure. According to my calculation, 590 million. But what you've been seeing in the media and some Twitter accounts reporting 500. So we're getting closer there, like, close to that 500 million mark. Now, is that the true budget? We don't know. But as I said, we are just doing the layman's logic and reasoning in applying the overdraft, the sales. And another important thing, Jarvis, what you want to mention is that there's going to be an exodus, but there's a trickiness to that, and that is called some people call it Brexit FC, but that is actually an FA ruling, right? What is it what we're talking about, Jarvis?
Yeah, basically it is, we have to have homegrown players in the team.
Correct.
And we are allowed to have 17 players, and the rest has to be homegrown players. So in a squad of 25, it's 8 players that has to be homegrown. Yeah.
And they have to be over 21, right?
Yes, they have to be over 21, and they have to have played 3 years in an FA registered club.
Yes. And that kind of gives you a clear understanding on why we're looking at British Premier League proven players in certain ways to fill that quota.
Yeah. It's interesting because there's been a lot of rumors of British players like Mason Mount and other players, but it's basically because we are selling now players who's under the homegrown rule. We have Henderson, Maguire, Van Bissaka has been mentioned.
Scott McTominay.
Scott McTominay and Tuanzebe and Phil Jones is going out on a free.
Anyway,
so we're in a we need some new homegrown players.
Yeah. Any estimation of how many players on that list that is kind of potentially going now? Brandon Williams as well.
Brandon Williams is one of them. We have, but the one who is safe, that's Shaw, Sancho, Rashford. And Nathan Bishop, I think he's on that list. Actually, funny thing is, Ronaldo was one of the homegrown players when we started last season, but he's gone. So we need to fill up that list. We need, and we can't just pick from the academy.
But how can Ronaldo be homegrown? I mean, excuse me, how can Ronaldo be homegrown? He's Portuguese.
Yeah, but he played for our academy, and he was registered 3 years in under the FA. So. That's the way it is.
Yeah. Now, in terms of the outs, we're not going to talk about the outs, but there were some interesting facts. We understand that Maguire is on the out list. McTominay has been offered as well. So there's going to be some very, very interesting summer. I saw something about Fred today also was a paper talk, but I'm not sure. I think Fred is... I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to add on to generate as much money on the sales, and if Erik ten Hag wants to get in top-notch players... It's looking like he's a little bit of a mini Alex Ferguson there, like he did with Beckham and everyone else. Sold them.
The thing with Fred, he's getting close to 30 now, so maybe it's time. But and we have the homegrown rule, so if it's between like McTominay or Fred, maybe we have to choose Fred.
Yeah, and that makes sense why we are kind of now linked to Mason Mount in a certain way. It's kind of maybe a little bit of a better version than Scott McTominay, but you know, Mason Mount under Ten Hag can be quite interesting. I'm not particularly fond of Chelsea players, but anyway.
No, neither am I. So
All right.
let's see what happens.